Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have MacEwan business student, aspiring lawyer, and gym bro, Cameron Spilak. We will discuss faith and God, the gym, and mental toughness. Everyone, welcome.
All right. We are live here with Cameron Spilak.
There we go.
Yeah, bro. How's your day so far?
Good. Pretty chill. Nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I met Cameron at the gym, everyone, and he's just going absolutely hard every night. And this guy who was just pretty skinny just blew up. I don't know. Is it all natty or
maybe.
Okay.
Good magician never tells the secrets.
So yeah, bro. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Cameron. Most of my friends call me Cam. Just they like nicknames, I guess. I'm 22. Born and raised here in Sherwood Park. Played a lot of sports growing up. I played lacrosse, I think from when I was 6 or 7 until about 13. Sprinkled some basketball in there, but I was never very good, so I stopped. And I was tall, though. I had that at least. And then at 13, I started Muay Thai, which for anyone who doesn't know about that, it's pretty much just kickboxing. It comes from Thailand. It's their national sport. Very traditional. And then at 14, I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is submission grappling. So I don't know if you or your audience have ever watched a lot of UFC fights, but pretty much any time the fight goes to the ground, that's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's kind of our territory there. And then I went to ABJ, same high school as Advin here, and pretty much right after I graduated, like summer of when I was 18, I really got heavy into the gym. So I don't train the martial arts as much anymore. I still get it in where I can with school and work and all that, but really my main focus is on the gym now. And I was baptized Catholic, really, always been pretty strong on practicing my faith. I've had my ups and downs, as I think has anyone who's been on any kind of religious or spiritual journey. But yeah, no, it's really shaped a big part of who I am today.
Mm-hmm. How has your faith influenced your daily life and decisions?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of just the same as anyone who tries to adhere to any set of values, whether they're religious or not. It just kind of gives me a framework to base everything around and sort of a guiding example to look at when I run into moral situations that are maybe a bit hairy or where I don't really know what the right answer is. I can kind of go to church. I can pray on it. I can ask, the spiritual leaders in my life for advice. And yeah, kind of just try to make the most Christian decision, I guess, that I can, you would say, in that situation.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned from your faith?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say probably the biggest lesson I've learned from my faith is that it's not about being as strong as you possibly can. Like when I was younger, right, I kind of viewed every problem as a nail that I had to hit as the hammer type of thing. And then, I kind of spent more time in church. And one of the stories that stuck out to me was King Solomon, right? Because he, becomes king and God says he'll give him anything that he asks for, right?
I actually don't know King Solomon.
Have you not heard about this? Okay.
I think I have, but I need a refresher.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's an Old Testament story. He becomes king of like all the tribes of Israel. I think I'm not exactly familiar on the history of the region, but yeah, he becomes king and God tells him, I will give you anything you ask for because, you've won this great battle. You gotta rule over Israel now. So I'll give you anything you ask for to help out. And rather than asking for great riches or, a lot of women or to be just like, powerful army or whatever, he just asks for wisdom. He wants wisdom so that he can govern Israel, to a higher level than he would be able to achieve without God. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned from my faith is that you gotta pray for the tools you need. And it's not always about just this, right? Like slamming your way through every problem. You got to approach it with a bit of finesse sometimes.
Well, you pointed out that he didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for more women. When we view society right now, that seems to be kind of the paradigm that people view success at. They forget that that's not really what it's all about. I mean, people on their deathbeds don't go, "Oh, I wish I earned more money. I wish I slept with more women. I wish I had more work to do." No, it's the faith aspect. It's the relationships, right? And the wisdom. Like, how do you go about life and have meaning and purpose? I feel like religion, for me as well, I'm Christian Catholic. It establishes a safety net for when things get tough. Wealth doesn't, sure, it will help for, let's say, if I get sick, healthcare will be there. If I just need my car needs to get fixed. But that internal, your soul, for me, that's, I talk about like mind, body, and soul. And I think the mind, it's when you study, you learn a language, you read a book. Body, you work out. But the soul is what is the most important. It's what fuels your existence. It's in there. It's in all of us. Because the mind and the body, they're fleeting. But the soul always stays there. And then people may ask, "Oh, what about if you get brain damage?" No. If you're good inside, if you remain that heart, if you have that heart, it doesn't matter if you hit your head 100 times, right? Your soul will be there. The way you treat people, the way you go about life, and where you end up after you die, that's where it'll come down to. And we're all going to get judged one day. So, can you share a time when your faith was challenged and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I would say the biggest challenge was right after I graduated high school. I graduated 2020, so it was most of the year was normal, and then kind of halfway through March, everything got shut down. So, we were all sitting around at home firing up the PlayStation again type of thing, right? So, yeah, for me. And then during that time, my grandpa got sick and passed away, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, no, it's, he was old. He had a good run. And yeah, I had my heart broken by this girl that I was madly in love with, as I think, happens to a lot of young people. Right. And I was really left in a place. I wasn't in contact with my friends a whole lot. I kind of withdrew into this little shell. And I really found that I was left in a place where I had a lot of time to myself. And I was just sitting there, my head was spinning from all this stuff. And I was kind of, questioning why all these bad things, were happening to me. Because I'm not perfect, but I felt like I was a pretty good person. I'd been church pretty much every Sunday for, my whole life. So I was staring into the void. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong here? Why is this happening to me? So yeah, that was very challenging for me. And then my access to my faith network, I guess, was cut off because you couldn't go to church or anything like that. I really, was not at all motivated to put in the effort to even get out of bed some days and, let alone join a Zoom call and watch Father Jim consecrate the host in front of an empty church. Right. So, but for me, overcoming that just came down to reconnecting with people in my family who really guided my faith journey. My grandmother has always been huge for that. Like, our joke in our family is that the religious structure goes the Pope and then my grandma. So yeah, she's right up there for sure. She's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to the faith and all that stuff. So just spending some time in conversation with her kind of helped me get my head right. Once everything opened back up again, I started going to church with her again, and that was kind of able to pull me back into the faith.
These mentors in our lives, our parents, grandparents, they have gone through those dark times, where maybe they were at a point in their lives where they're questioning their faith, heartbroken, job loss, disease, grief, and certainly seeking them in those times have been so helpful for me as well, because they've been through it. They've got that wisdom, right? And I am a firm believer of us not being able to get past this life alone. We need our connections. like when I do go to the gym too, like when I'm having a bad day, I like to just tell people, just the true friends, and they want to listen, and as well as my family. And it's everybody's wanting to help, man. That's what really reminded me of your story, is when you choose to just hold it all in, you're not doing yourself any favor. You're just making it worse. Yeah. How do you find a sense of community and belonging within your faith?
Well, for me, it's pretty easy. Like I touched on earlier, I've been going to church for pretty much my whole life. So a lot of the people there, have known me since I was very little. And I used to think it was weird at times because you'd get this old person coming up to you that you only vaguely recognized. And they're like, "Oh, I held you when you were a baby." And I'm like, "I don't know who you are. Please,
Where are you?
Please step back.
Get away from me."
Yeah, exactly. But no, I definitely, as I matured more, I came to appreciate that tremendously. And my mom was always big. She volunteered before COVID hit with decorating the church. She did that a lot. So anytime you'd see the banners change over with the seasons, or like the Christmas tree that they put up in the kind of the main entranceway of the church, that was her, a lot of that. And she used to bring me and my sister along when we were kids. So I also met a lot of the staff and the priests and just other parishioners who would come in to help out that way. Yeah. So for me, faith was always strongly community based right from the time I could walk, pretty much.
Yeah. Whenever I'm at church, I feel this sense of peace. And I was atheist for like high school. Yeah. And because I just lost faith and I kept questioning everything.
Everyone goes through that phase when they're young, man.
But the moment I willingly went back, which was a couple years back. Yeah. Whenever I'm there, I'm sitting there and the priest is the sermons, we're all singing. I feel this catharsis, like that unconditional love, right? Where, okay, anything can go wrong in my life, but this being, God, will love me no matter what. And I feel a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, what? Like, where's the proof? Right now is the proof. Like, I often get into like arguments, but nothing like, too deep. But I will sprinkle my faith in a lot of my speech and a lot of my communication, because I certainly believe that faith, that belief of a higher power, is so important, and it makes a massive difference into a person's life. Because I've also thought about, what if we were wrong? Okay, let's just say I don't believe this, but let's just say we were wrong. There's no heaven. There's no God. At least we followed a very, a set of guidelines that was all about compassion and love. And we made the world a better place.
There's a guy called Blaise Pascal who was this French inventor and physicist in, I want to say it was the 16 or 1700s, long time ago anyways. But his whole argument for God, because he had a similar journey where he was atheist and then he converted to Catholicism. His argument was that you can never know 100% whether God exists or he doesn't. There's no evidence you can gather. Like God doesn't leave footprints, right? There's no God footprint on the earth, right? There's nothing that you can really scientifically observe or put under a microscope to 100% say God exists or he does not. You just have to choose to take a blind leap and accept the premise that he exists or not. You just stand there. And his whole argument was, if you believe in God and he turns out not to be real, all you lost was a little bit, whatever time you spent in church, an hour every Sunday, right? Your time that you spent praying, that you could have been out making more money, like drinking, partying, things that at the end of your life don't really matter, right? Even though they're fun in the moment. But if you choose not to believe in God and it turns out that he exists, right? Then you lose out on, the infinite good that is God, right? So really, when you look at it that way, the choice is pretty obvious, I would say.
That's a great way of putting it. What's this guy's name again?
Blaise Pascal.
Blaise Pascal. I'll have to check him out. Yeah.
Philosophy 100 knowledge right there.
Does he have any books?
Oh man, one really old one. I don't remember what it's called, but I'll look it up for you after we record.
Sweet. We'll put it in the descriptions.
Yes, sir.
You play you've practiced Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, and there's this idea of power, right? And we touched up on this before turning on the camera, where Jesus was subjected to all this pain and misery, but then he had all this power, and he could have blown all the people that were attacking him if he wanted to, but he didn't, because he loved them, right? So how does being able to fight and being this big guy, like what does that mean to you? Like when you're put in a situation where you could easily hurt this person, right? And you choose not to. I bet you choose not to, right? What does that mean to you? Why don't you?
Well, I guess for me, the thing is, it's just not worth it, right? It's like, sure, there are plenty of, I think everyone runs into situations in life where they have someone in front of them who they're in conflict with, and you look at this person and you think, I just want to punch you right now, type of thing, right? It's like friends, family, strangers, whatever type of deal, but it's just not worth it, right? Because there are so many things. You have legal consequences. There are cameras everywhere. You're not going to get away with anything like that, right? So sure, you'll get the temporary satisfaction of maybe hitting this person that, you don't like, but what happens if you really hurt them, right? Because for me, I knew how to fight before I was big. So, I had the technique, but I didn't probably have as much power behind it as I do now. But, as you get older, there's stuff like you hit someone, they fall, they hit their head on the concrete, right? All of a sudden you're looking at 25 years to life in prison. And it's like, it's just not worth it at the end of the day. And people live in a very interconnected web, right? Like when you hurt one person, you're not just hurting that person, right? If I, walk outside and some guy bumps me and I punch him, right? Now his girlfriend is worried about him, right? His mom, his dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, all this stuff, right? If he ends up in the hospital, you'll see all these people crowded around the bed, right? So at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. And control is almost always going to be the better option. Of course, there may be times where you have to defend yourself or to defend others, but 9 times out of 10, that's not the case.
I've never thought about it that way. Like I know that there are consequences to hurting someone, and I'd actually expand where calling someone a name or just being rude to someone can just mentally harm them as well. So to expand on what you've said, they could take it out on their family when they get home because they experience that negativity, and negativity is so much more powerful. And then they get into a conflict, and then they start, just mistreating their family all around them. And maybe it wasn't your fault, but you certainly increase the chances by hurting this person. You end up causing this ripple effect. We're all connected in a way, right? Then when you hurt an individual, you're actually hurting the world, which is kind of beautiful to think about. And the inverse is also true. You make someone's day better, asking about how they are, listening to them truly, and wanting them to do well. They'll want to pay it forward. Yeah. So when you deal with this conflict, how does faith play into it?
Yeah, it's faith definitely plays into it in the sense that whenever I come into conflict with someone, I kind of, you view them, I feel like, as more of an equal than you might. It's not, me versus that guy, right? We're on the same team because, we're brothers and sisters in Christ and all that stuff, right? So that definitely helps, I would say, because I can look at someone and be like, "Okay, listen, even though I have a lot of anger towards you right now, we're on the same team, right? Like humanity is one team. So, we gotta squash the beef, and we'll work this out for the betterment of everybody, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, at least.
Yeah, we're all connected. We all bleed the same. We all feel the same. When we experience happiness, sadness, anger, it's all the same. So it's so difficult for people to just understand each other because they get so roped up into their own individuality. They forget that, hey, we're all connected. What would you say to someone who has trouble believing?
That's a good. Honestly, I would bring them back to Pascal, like we were talking about earlier. It's what do you realistically have to lose by believing in God, right? If you believe
time, they'll say time.
Okay, so what were you going to do with that time otherwise? I'll give you my example. I go to church at 8:30 on Sunday morning. What were you going to do at 8:30 on Sunday morning that was going to be so much greater than going to church and, spending some time in prayer, right?
Well, it's also a form of meditation as well. You're dissociating yourself from all the problems and all the debauchery and all the chaos of everyday life. And you sit there and you kneel and you pray and you just feel enlightened and you feel closer to everyone. And I often describe the feeling to other people, and like to some people it seems like I'm crazy, but I'm not afraid. Like, do you ever get that feeling where like you could run through like a wall of bullets? Maybe not literally, but
you feel like you could.
You won't get hurt. Like yesterday, I had this feeling, just like I felt so blessed and I felt so grateful and loved, and it was just me driving to the gym. Like just hit a 5K and I just felt connected. And I know religion's not for everyone, and I know there are other routes to self-improvement and being connected. There are like, I don't know, I know many of my friends, some of them are atheists, but yeah, I certainly don't force them. I just try to sprinkle it in, right? Like I'll say bless a lot, or I'll say, oh, God is watching, or like, yeah, just certainly it's a good thing.
Yeah. I don't think you don't necessarily have to believe the same thing that I do or that you do. I think it's possible for God to reveal himself to different people in different ways. So you don't have to believe exactly the same thing I do. I just think you have to believe in something.
Yeah, you're right. Beyond yourself. Because people that don't have belief, man, they'll give up at the slightest bit of pain because they don't have that why, right? Why? Like, religion aside, you got your family, you got and to connect that to earlier, that ripple effect where if you give love to the world, there's going to be more love. If you give hate, there's going to be more hate. That belief alone, for me, if I wasn't religious, is enough for me to treat everyone with kindness and to go about the world with positivity. And then, yeah, let's talk about the gym.
All right, here we go.
What are your current fitness goals and what motivates you to achieve them?
Goody. This is why you brought me on. I'm a world-renowned meathead. No, I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, for me, I think my goal is that I would like to be a lean 215 pounds, which I know is pretty ambitious. That's, a big goal. That's kind of my long-term thing that I'm working towards.
What do you weigh at now?
Sorry?
What do you weigh at now?
Before, so I got sick about 2 weeks ago and lost some weight. I was at like 210, 211 then, and now I'm down around 205, but I'm starting to work my way back up again. Setbacks, we hate them. Yeah, but as far as what motivates me, I guess, I don't know. I just kind of want to do it for my younger self, because when I graduated high school, Oh wait, we talked about this before the episode. You know, you couldn't believe how skinny I used to be in high school.
This guy, I was bigger than this guy at one point. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
It's true. It's true. He's
But
not
then
lying.
he just blew up for some reason. I'm like, is that? I went to school with that guy. But yeah.
Yeah, no. So I was 150 pounds when I graduated high school. Same height though, so I was 6'1" and just super strong.
Wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we grew a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I wasn't happy with my body. I wasn't happy with the way I looked. You know, wasn't really confident around anybody because all the guys were bigger than me. You know, all the girls weren't really interested in my toothpick looking body. So I just I felt like I didn't really have that confidence to walk into a room with my chest puffed out and kind of believe that I was worth something, as silly as it sounds to tie that to the physical. But when I started going to the gym, I kind of, anytime I would have a hard set or a day where I didn't want to go, I would just think back to how I felt then and realize that that's not something that I'm interested in going back to. So the only thing I can do is move forward, and I'm going to do it.
That reminds me of just the people who were fat. They say the same thing.
Yeah.
They remind themselves of that gross feeling and just lack of energy and unhealthy feeling. But for you didn't get that feeling, right? Because when you're 150 at 6'1", you're healthy. Like, I guess in the sense where you're not fat.
Yeah. No.
But you just, it's the confidence you had wasn't to the best version of itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, I was lean. I just didn't really have a lot of muscle mass on my frame. So it, you know, I wasn't fat or anything, but it just didn't look good, really.
Yeah. How did you get started?
Oh, so my mom had a membership at Millennium. She would go and do all the exercise classes there before COVID. And when COVID hit, I forget exactly what it was, but they had a discount where you could add an additional family member to your pass, and it was like $20 off or something like that. And she asked me about it. She was like, hey, you know, do you want, because she knew I was spending a lot of time at home, obviously, as was everyone. And yeah, she just asked me, you know, if I wanted her rather to add me on and start going to the gym. So I did. It was back when you had to wear the mask into the gym, and they had these, you know, little tiny tape squares around every machine, and you could only take your mask off when you were inside the tape. You had to book a spot. They only let like 20 people into the gym at once.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was quite a time, but yeah, that's how I got my start.
And getting intense into a workout or exercise just with a mask on,
It
is
was
terrible.
Yeah,
atrocious.
just a mouthful of reusable cloth. It's not a good time.
What's your favorite exercise?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say right now, single arm machine row is definitely up there. Honestly, almost any back exercise I really like. I love training back.
Dude, that in the near the purple room with the single-handed.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. That one is just high demand.
Yeah,
Low supply. They need to get a second one.
One machine in the whole gym, and everybody wants it. And once they get it, they spend half an hour on there.
Yeah, same with the pec flies. I like the pec flies.
Yeah.
Everyone's on there, and we got two, and then they're always taken. Always. Can you describe your typical workout routine and any specific exercises you prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, so right now I'm on kind of what you'd say, I guess, is a modified push-pull legs routine. So I do back and bicep day on Monday. Tuesday, I do chest, shoulders, and triceps. Wednesday is legs. And then Thursday is back and bis again. And Friday is chest, shoulders, and triceps again. And I used to do a second leg day on Saturday, but I found that was just too much for my schedule, and one rest day a week was like, I was feeling a lot of fatigue. I was, you know, getting these minor nagging injuries a lot more. So I just decided to switch Saturday to a second rest day instead. And now I feel a lot better, and I really haven't suffered. Like my legs haven't, withered away and died from it. So I'm not too worried about them not getting maybe as much volume as the other stuff.
Well, sometimes more rest can actually be helpful depending on what your goals are. Like it can actually make you stronger by giving yourself time to actually heal, because you're going hard at the gym. You're breaking all these muscle fibers. They need to be able to rebuild. You need to get that sleep, that diet, that water, right? And if you don't give yourself that time and you're constantly just going hard, then you won't get as much progress as you would if you just took the time to give yourself a rest day.
Yeah. And I think it's something that's very underrated, particularly by people our age too, because when you're young, it's nothing bad ever really happens to your body when you're young. Like, you can go in the gym, you can go as hard as you want, you can do as many exercises for whatever body part you're training that day, and you'll wake up the next day and you'll feel sore, but you feel like you could just jump right back in and do it again. And that was one thing that training Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu with a lot of older guys taught me, is they're like, listen, you got to take care of your body because you only get one. And when you get deep into your 40s and it's breaking down on you, you will really, really regret the choices that you made when you were 19.
Yeah. That reminds me of when people were telling me, like adults were in their 20s, 30s, past high school. They're telling me that high school is a breeze. Like, don't take it for granted. Do your work. It's pretty easy. I took it for granted. I didn't know the value of all this free time, and I could have done something with it. I just didn't. I just wasted so much of it. And relating it to working out and overtraining and not taking the young body, not treating it well. You got all these people saying when they're 40, hey, buddy, young guy, treat your body well. Because when you're my age, like, you're going to feel it. And now I actually take that to heart based on what old people tell me. I go, okay, this guy is 60. This guy knows what's up. Like, he's gone through those terrible moments. And actually, myself, I've went through a back injury with just squatting without proper form, ego lifting. Yeah. And one injury, you're behind months, years, or maybe not able to go back.
Yeah, especially with back injuries, because those are just so debilitating.
Yeah, you ever seen those videos with like bicep tears too? Like, they're doing that, and then it just separates, bro. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that and pec tendon tears are just, oh god, I cringe so hard every time I see those.
Yeah, like the pec just. I when I'm going hard, sometimes some of those videos just pop in my head, and I go, oh gosh, hopefully that's not a tear.
Or you just get like a little twinge in the wrong spot, and you're like, oh man, I need to stop right now. Like, something bad's gonna happen.
Because you get to the point, right, where you're constantly progressing and you're making PR after PR. You're looking in the mirror and you're just getting big. Yep. And then you're at that point where the weights are getting heavy. So the risk of injury is also very high. Oh, yeah. So you need to be able to get those stretches in. You need to be able to get the sleep in, the diet in, give everything in aligned with your values and objectives, or else you're going to get injured. Yeah.
Take your warm up seriously, kids.
Yeah. Warm up, everyone. What challenges have you faced in your fitness journey, and how have you managed to stay consistent?
Probably my biggest challenges have just been hitting plateaus at certain times. Like, from when I first started, obviously everyone who goes to the gym kind of knows about newbie gains, I guess, where you're in that beginner phase and it's just really easy. You're putting on a lot of weight and you're increasing all your lifts just exponentially. It feels like every lift. So I had that phase for a while when I was starting at 150, and I got up to about 180, 185, and then I just kind of hit a wall, and all my lifts were staying the same for, a month and a half. And it was, my body weight wasn't moving. And it was tough because, at that time I really, really, really wanted to be 200 pounds. That was like all I wanted in my life at all. At that point was just get to 200. It was very challenging for me to hit that wall. But I don't know what the biggest thing that got me through it, I guess, was just kind of looking at other people in the gym and looking at some of the bigger guys around and realizing that they, probably went through stuff like that too. And that you just got to stick with it, right? Like, we have a saying in pretty much all martial arts is that a black belt is a white belt who never quit. So I realized that if I could just hang in there and keep going and, try my best to increase my lifts even when they felt like they weren't moving, this phase would probably pass by. And then sure enough, I jumped up a little bit and then hit the wall again, stayed patient, jumped up a little bit, hit the wall again. Just perseverance.
90% of podcasts after episode 3 don't continue. And then 90% of episode 21 don't continue. And that's same with working out, right? And there's this thing David Goggins has said where to be great at anything, all you have to do is put in a little effort, because everyone is weak these days, right? Like as soon as you don't see that progress, I feel like a lot of people will just quit. When they don't see the change, they just lose that drive. And that's a discipline between discipline and motivation, right? Motivation, you're just gonna, get all enlightened after like the first month and you go. Discipline is when you don't see any gains, when you're going back after back exercise and your back's not getting any defined, your pounds, you step on the scale and it's not going up. But as you said, a black belt is just a white belt who never quit. And that's with any endeavor, right? Like school, like everybody's got a bad mark.
Oh,
you just don't quit. Like if you get a bad mark, you fail class. Sure, you fail class. But if you quit, then you're done. You'll never see it through the end. And I'm a firm believer of failure is formative. It's not final. You fail at something, you just got to keep coming back, right? And that's the way it's been designed, right? I'm sure all throughout all the sports training you've been in, it's been like that, right? You get scored on in a sport. You're not going to cry about it. You just,
that's the biggest thing is short memory.
Yeah. So when you're feeling lazy, when you feel like you don't want to go, you think of all these people who were just maybe in your phase at some point and they're one of the bigger guys. Is there any other methodologies and mindsets that you set in place when that's not enough?
Man, I don't know. For me, honestly, I really enjoy working out. So I don't really have a lot of days where, I'm sitting at home and I'm just like, oh, I really, really don't want to do it today. But I would say the biggest thing for me is when I've been at points in my fitness journey where I felt like I was kind of hitting a block and, it was tough for me to break through. And maybe I was, in the car on the way to the gym, just really feeling tired and beat down and not like I was going to have a workout, like a good workout that day. Those days often turned out to be the best workouts that I've ever had, where I just really felt like I crushed it and I got a really good pump and, I was lifting heavier than I normally would. And, I don't know if there's any science behind that, probably not, but that kind of just the reminders of how I felt before versus during and after the workout are usually enough to carry me through these days whenever I'm not feeling maybe as motivated as I am most days.
I'm the same way. I feel better every time, so much better if I started off with a workout just not wanting to do it. Because on the flip side, once you're done, it's like whoa, all the mental battles, all that friction, and I still did it. And when you do want to go next time, it's so much easier because you went to the days where you didn't want to go. You still pushed through. And at the end of it, you succeeded. You triumphed in that day. And then we're all constantly getting tested every day, hey? And you passed the test that day. Instead of just going home and, putting on Netflix and eating Cheetos, you just feel worse the entire night. And then it just cycles on, because then next time you don't feel like it, you're just not going to go. And actually, I read this book. It's called Dopamine Nation. Have you heard of it?
No, I don't think I have, actually.
Well, like with the reward and just drive, the neurotransmitter dopamine. Stanford neurologist. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
There we go. That was a battle.
He says that dopamine is kind of the central currency for the world, and that's why we do the things that we do. That's why people just do drugs. That's why people play video games. That's why people go to the gym. It's because we feel that motivation, that the reward. And when you don't want to go to the gym, your dopamine system is like very low. It's at a trough. But after you get that, the endorphins and the dopamine kind of goes up, and after you're done, it's at its peak. And when it's at its lowest, it bounces back right up to the top too. Because you ever had like a really bad day, but then like something cool happened and you're like, whoa. But versus when you just had an average day and something cool happened, it's so much better when you're at your lowest and then something good happens. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely picking up what you're putting down.
And then with the gym, that's kind of the same way. Right? And I feel like, for everyone watching, if you're having a bad day, just go. Let's talk about mental toughness.
Okay.
Overcoming adversity. How do you approach and overcome mental obstacles or setbacks?
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest thing for me whenever I deal with mental obstacles, and I feel like it kind of sounds bad when I explain it to other people, but I will do my best. I try to think of myself as being something special, right? Like I'm not saying that as like, I'm the best and, everyone else is beneath me type of thing. I feel like I have a unique set of experiences in life that have turned me into someone who can offer something really unique and good to the world. And I feel that if I don't do the best that I can to to achieve the most amount of success that I can in life, then I'm just bastardizing those gifts that I feel that I've been given. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this to be like, I'm so talented or whatever. I'm really not talented. I just feel that, I've been given a healthy body. I've been given a healthy mind. I had a nurturing family who helped me really take both of those things to the next level by encouraging me to achieve highly in school and to do well in sports and all this stuff. And the one thing that I go back to is two of my Muay Thai training partners, they're brothers. They teach Muay Thai to some guys from the Robin Hood Association. And for anyone who doesn't know, the Robin Hood Association is a charity organization, and they work with people with disabilities. So like Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, just like any range of mental and physical disabilities. And when you see these people come in to the gym with the challenges that they face, which are quite significant for some of them, and come in, still smiling, still having a good time, still doing the techniques that they're being taught to the best of their ability, even though, some of them, their body barely responds to them, to what their brain is telling it to do. Like, how can you see that and not try to, reach the top in your own life? If you can see someone fighting through that, you can fight through whatever you've got going on.
Conor McGregor says that the lack of belief you have in yourself is a disrespect to all the people that believe in yourself. Yeah. And I saw a guy at the gym, I'm sure you've seen him as well, with the one arm.
Yeah, I see that guy all the time, dude.
I know, I've said hi to him, and I don't want to make him feel like I'm just pitying him, because I don't actually look up to him.
Yeah.
He's a beast, man. He's there most
100%.
Nights. Yeah. And when a person doesn't use their abilities, what they have, right? And then you see this person that doesn't have legs, that doesn't have maybe the brain capacity that the average person does, and they're putting in the work. They're despite the adversity that they're going through. It's just inspiring to me, just to have a person that have all the cards dealt wrong, but still get back up. Like, we all revere people like that, hey? Where they go through just all these mental battles, they suffer, but still, they do not let that define them. They pave the way, and they do not succumb to life's chaos.
Go anywhere in Canada, you'll see a statue of Terry Fox, who had cancer in one leg and ran halfway across the country.
Yeah.
You gotta match that guy. You gotta get on that guy's level. If you're not, you're doing
Terry
something
Fox,
wrong.
Man. I mean, that guy was just presented with the worst thing ever. Cancer. Leg chopped off. But what does he do? He uses that as a spark to create this big movement in himself and just rippled onto others. And he's raised what now? Like billions of dollars? Yeah. And if he was alive today, man, the inspiration and the amount of change that he could have casted onto this world would just be so significant. And I know they all show that him to us at school, hey, and it's just, he always inspired me. Good guy. What practices or habits have you developed to build and maintain mental toughness?
Oh, yeah. So I guess as far as my habits that help build toughness, I would just say, sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. I would just say putting myself in difficult situations as often as I can. Like, things that scare me, things that, challenge me to be better. And then putting myself in those situations and overcoming those obstacles. And I think that's kind of the crux of building any kind of toughness, really, but especially the mental. For me, I would say probably my biggest formative experience with mental toughness was when I was 16. I got a Muay Thai fight on what's known as a smoker card. They're like low level amateur fight cards, but you're in the ring, you're fighting. There's a ref, and you can get knocked out in these fights, as opposed to amateur tournaments where they're very much limiting your head contact. It's really only body punches and kicks that you're allowed. So, and the Muay Thai scene for kids has evolved considerably in the last few years. Like, it's a demo sport at the Olympics, I think, coming up here. So it's on the way to getting government funding. But at the time that I was doing it, at the time that I was 16, getting a smoker card fight was very rare. And it was kind of a thing that they tried to reserve those opportunities for, some of the higher level students in the class. Not saying I was some prodigy or anything. I really wasn't. But I got this opportunity. And I remember I was the most terrified I've ever been in my life. I woke up the morning of the fight and I thought about just getting in my car and driving as far away as I could, because I just didn't want to do it. I was so scared. I was, and all throughout the day, the weigh-ins, the taking pictures where you're like facing off with the other guy. And you're right. I was looking at this guy and I was like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. Like, I can't do this. I just don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I got into the fight, right? Walkouts, entrance music, lights going, still terrified, like a deer in the headlights. And we get in there. Sorry, this is a long story, but it has a good point to it. I promise.
Give all the details, man. No, keep going.
Yeah. So I get in there, round one, and it goes very well for me. I won the round. I was really felt like I was stymieing his attack very well. I was countering. I felt like I had all the advantage on this guy. I get up for round two. I instantly get the adrenaline dump, and I was so tired. I felt like I was just going to collapse. So we're in there for round two, and he's clearly winning round two. I felt like I was drowning. Like, I just had nothing. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't, let alone throw a punch, right? I couldn't do anything. And then I went back to the corner after round two. So it's only 3 rounds. So now we're 1-1. So whoever wins the last round is going to win the fight, barring any sort of any knockouts or anything like that. So I get up off the stool beginning of round 3, and I don't know what it was, but I just felt so energized, and I felt that when I went out there for round 3, because he knew he needed this round to win the fight just the same as I did, right? So he was giving it his all, but I just felt that I had it in me to be just, just that little ounce better than him when I needed to be. And that ultimately ended up winning me the fight. So for me, I guess that would be the main thing for me that really formed my mental toughness, because I realized that I went through this situation, a fight, which is pretty much the most dangerous thing you can do without actually putting yourself in like real life-threatening danger, right? And I was at a point in that fight where I really felt that things were going badly for me, and I was, maybe going to get knocked out or something like that. And then I ended up coming back and winning. So having been through that and all that fear and all that anxiety I had towards that moment, and then emerging successful, really for me just solidified that I can do absolutely anything.
Now imagine if you went into that fight not being scared and you just didn't question anything, right? You would have just 3-0'd that guy.
Yeah, probably.
But still, that fear that you experienced probably was even better for your self-development, because it taught you that this fear that we all feel inside is something that we can hijack, is something that we can actually use to our advantage. That, hey, maybe running towards the danger is the best course of action. That maybe that the things that we don't want to do are the things that we need to do.
Yep.
And I relate that to school as well. Like there's been days where I don't want to do it. I don't want to study for 3 more hours, please. No, I don't see any merit to this. I just want to hit the gym. But I'd make myself do it anyways. And it's just unimaginable pain, because it's a different type of pain, man. When you're tasked to sit there willingly.
Oh man, it's tough. It's way tougher than the physical stuff for me, at least.
Then you get that mark for the exam or midterm, and you did decent, and you go, I could have gotten better had I just studied more. And it's that, and when you go through the fights, I could have trained better. I could have done this better. I could have slept more. I could have relaxed. There's always something that we can do. Do you ever get into those thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, the fear leading into that fight was what really motivated me to train very hard. And I had a really good training camp, and I was sparring with a lot of guys who would normally give me a really tough time in the sparring rounds that we did in training sessions. And, I was beating some of these guys, and I was landing some good shots on them. And I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do this. But, it all went back to that fear of not wanting to lose and be embarrassed and let down all the people who supported me and helped me reach that moment. So yeah, I think for me, the number one thing is you have to use that fear, but you can't let it overtake you, and you can't let it like control your life leading into it, right?
We all experience fear, man.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's just a basic human emotion, but it's about adding meaning to this fear. Okay, like what's the flip side of not doing this action? Of not showing up to this fight, of not showing up to the gym, of not studying? Then you're not advancing as a person, and you're less able to present yourself to the world and to the best version, to the best of your abilities. And what does that mean? That just means that you won't be able to help as much. And it goes so much more than that, right? And going back to faith, God gave you this life, and there are people that will rely on you, that rely on you right now. Do the best that you can, because when you suffer, everyone suffers, right? And that is just self-inflicted, or it could be life happening to you. Like, if you don't hit the gym, you're gonna get sick, and then how is that suffering? You know, it's not worth it. Just we all know what's good and bad for us. Just get after it. Are there any individuals or stories that inspire you to stay mentally strong? If so, who or what are they?
Oh man, just so many. I guess the primary example in my life would be probably my grandpa on my dad's side, who's the one who passed away, as we were talking about earlier. But he grew up in Yugoslavia, which was a communist country, very strict government, military, policed everything and policed it pretty brutally, not a lot of food to go around, all the fun stuff that comes with living in a dictatorship, right? And when my grandma got pregnant at, I don't even know how old she was. I think she was 20, he was 22, something like that. When my grandma got pregnant, they realized that they weren't going to be able to raise a child in this kind of environment and they needed to leave, right? Well, you can't just, I don't know if you've ever been to a communist dictatorship, Avin, but you can't.
Not.
Yeah, fair enough. You can't just walk out. They don't let you leave. So they had to sneak out. So they went to their cousin's house, who lived right by the border. They waited for the guards to change patrols, and they snuck across the border in the middle of the night with one suitcase for the two of them, because my grandma couldn't carry any bags because she was pregnant. And after that, they went to a refugee camp. They lived there for a few years, and then they came to Canada. They had nothing. They had no money. They had only that little suitcase, that one suitcase that my grandpa carried, and the clothes that they wore there. And when they came to Canada, they had to start all over and just build a life for themselves, right? And they were eventually, through a lot of hard work and taking real shitty jobs, they were able to do that. And, by the time that they both passed away, they owned a house in Edmonton, they owned a car, they had a lot of investments that had done really, really well for them. So they had built up, and, their dream was always to leave something behind that would help, money, something that would help the grandkids do really well in life. And they were able to accomplish that. So I guess that would be the number one example for me, because he worked in the sewers for 40 years, right? And it's like, normal, go walk down the street and count every 10 people you see, 9 of them couldn't do that job. And the one who could probably couldn't do it for as long as he did.
If they didn't do that, you wouldn't be here right now.
No, exactly, right? It's a crazy thing to think about, for sure. But that's probably the most stellar example of toughness and just getting in there and gutting it out, even though, you're not making a lot of money. You're doing terrible work that nobody wants to do, right? But you just got to do it because you got people counting on you.
They've made all the sacrifices for the future generations to come. Right? That's why we cannot take this for granted, because same with my dad, he started from nothing. It wasn't a communist country in the Philippines, but certainly opportunities wasn't as available compared to Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had no one. And as your grandparents, they got a kid, your grandpa's got a wife, and just they've got only each other. And they needed to make it work, taking these jobs that do not pay as much and working their way up to a house and a car?
Yeah.
Yeah. And from taking that risk, they could have gotten shot. They could have gotten killed, right? But they took that fear. It motivated them to change. To now we're here right now. Had they not taken that step to liberate themselves from that communist country, then they would have just been stuck there. And who knows where would you be right now? Oh
God, probably. Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah,
probably either Slovenia or Fort McMurray, depending which one of my parents my soul got given to.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Hey, man, thank you for coming on the Long Term Podcast.
Not at all, man. I'm honored that you deemed me interesting enough to be on here.
Yeah, no, dude, you're super interesting. I mean, our talks at the gym, they're very valuable to me. It means a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, is there any last words you'd like to say to the audience, listeners?
Keep it long term.
Yes. And yes, as always, to everyone listening, watching, there's a place for you in this world. Never lose hope. Have faith and keep it long term. Peace.
Sweet. That was awesome, dude. That was a lot of fun.